how would you like introduce yourself as in what you do and like who you are?
Yes. So, hello everybody. My name is Suraj Agarwal. I'm from Mumbai. I'm born and brought up here and lived for like good 26 years here, and that reveals my age also. um, um, let's put it that way. Like my social media handle, or most of the cases, my email also says there's this term that I use for myself, which is simply great, and simply great Suraj, and that is what I think I am. Um, my hobbies and my interests include reading. I am a voracious reader. I also run an LGBTQ book club. I co-manage that with a couple of queer folks. And I'm also an active member of a couple of book clubs here in India and in Mumbai. So whenever I am not reading, I'm either organizing a book club meet or attending one. Apart from that, I'm a very sensation seeking person. So in life or in career, I look out for avenues to create new things, or to be indulged into an experience or an activity which sort of is something that I've not heard of. So I love attending events. I love meeting new people, sharing ideas and opinions, and that is what I am. And I mean, I love interacting with new people, and that is how I met both of you, and that is how we started this conversation. So I'm very happy on that. Career wise, um, I would like to take two steps back and give a little bit of an intro. So when I was studying in my ninth grade, I stumbled upon a book called Maslow's Need Hierarchy Theory, which is a very not so conventional book for a ninth grade student to read. But I stumbled upon that book. I read that book, and I realized that this is something which is very interesting. Like, do people even use this theory? And who are those people who do it? Like, what kind of profession dives deeper into this? And I had this really good chat with my librarian, and I was the only person who used to have these kind of conversations with her at first place. So she told me that there's something called as personnel management. It's also called as human resource management, and that is how I dabbled into HR. My school had this kind of a thing where they had to compulsorily give like a psychometric test when you graduate to the 10th grade. And I gave that exam or that assessment, and voila, I was also accredited by them that, you should have a career in HR because you have the right skill set. You have the gift of the gab, which by now you all might have figured that I can speak, I can go on and on. And I can connect with people also, like just because I speak really well, so I can connect with people as well. And that is like a very fundamental thing to have a career in HR. And I kept that flame burning in me. I did my graduation in commerce, my the first 2 years in commerce, and then I did a management degree, like a bachelor's in management studies with a specialization in human resources. So just because I was so I had a one track mind that I wanted to have my career in HR. Even the university that I was studying, which is Mumbai University, introduced a specialization in HR, and that is what I learned. I always used to take my studies too seriously in school and in college. That's why, as you might have figured, I used to spend most of my time in the school library and in my college library, and that one thing led to another. And I was also adjudged as the student of the year twice in my academic life. That has also given me open doors to avenues to get in touch with people, to prove my metal and my potential to people. So I think these kind of awards also help. And currently, and from after my college, joined pursued a career in HR. I worked for a company, a training consulting company, which is now acquired by Upgrad. And I started as a junior training content creator. I mean, I wanted to always get into HR, but I was never too sure as to which avenue in HR is something that appeals to me. And considering that I am someone who loves to read and someone who loves to write also, like most of the people who love to read also are the people who love to write at some point in time. And that is where training content creation, or training rather, came into play. Learning and development came into play. And in my career of 3 years with that company, I was like a learning solutions consultant. I got graduated to learning solutions consultant in no time. So from like being a junior resource to like front ending 70 odd clients, and 70 odd in real sense, because they were all very different. So I had an FMCG, I had a multiplex brand, I had a PSU, I had a even a religious institute for that matter of fact. So I had a lot of very diverse clients. I worked with them. Most of them were appalled by the age that I am in. So I was just 23 when I was working with them, and there are a few clients of mine who is also gone above and beyond and asked like, I don't think so that you're 23. Can you like give me your Aadhaar card? I want to like sort of just like recon your age. And to that, to people who have appreciated on multiple levels how I've handled a certain project, and I've handled a certain shown a lot of maturity in what I've created. So from that to currently, because of 3 years of working with as a consultant, working with different companies, I felt that now is the time for me to switch to the corporate side. So I currently work for a mid-size fintech company, and I'm a part of the Global Center of Expertise for Learning and Development. So we do global training programs, global learning interventions, organizational development interventions, and I'm a part of a very small team who does a lot of good big work. And there's always this learning and development, and especially like there's a saying which says that nothing surprises me. I work in HR, and that is exactly how my day is. There's nothing that is like that surprised me, but still there is every day is a new day where you learn something new, where you do something new, where you create something new, and you impact the person's life, you impact your employee's life. So, in a nutshell, this is what I do. I'm also part of the DNI committee, or rather, I'm one of the founding members of the DNI group in my organization. We just started, like, we're taking baby steps, and we just started a couple of months back. Apart from that, otherwise, apart from work, there's something which is a little bit like a work, but also something which forms my hobby. I'm a part of this really interesting group called a professional group called Connect, which you just use the word connect but drop the C and put a Q to it.
Cool.
It's
Yeah.
Connect, and I am the city lead for Mumbai, which makes me host events in Mumbai, networking events in quarterly basis in Mumbai, and bring in synergies with other LGBTQ groups in the same function. Also, they do something really kick-ass, which is the queer peer-to-peer mentoring, and I'm also part of that. So I give in my expertise of learning and development to this small group or community rather that I'm a part of. And it's always good to see that there are people who make these lovely pairs of mentor and mentee, and within like few months they learn so much from each other. And in every cohort, I ensure that I am a mentee and I'm also a mentor, so I learn from someone and I also give out something that I know.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's me. That's the interesting, simply great Suraj.
That's really, really great, Suraj, for you. I mean, you doing so many things from the HR. You break a lot of myths that, there is a very stereotypical joke that, HRs are just one who makes rangolis and
Yes.
put out calendar notifications. But you do so much so on below the surface of all of that. So I really wanted to understand, and I really wanted you to talk about when we speak of HR, we just think someone who recruits or someone who just does onboarding, offboarding of people. But then there are this whole spectrum of the work that HR follows into. There are multiple teams that HR consists of. So for a layman or someone who's just starting out their career, who do not know that these are also the fields that exist, how would you explain like each of these teams and their the workings of what they specially do?
Yes. So, in the medieval times, and not just in medieval times, also like very like few years back, if you go to see when I was in school, the way my librarian explained what HR is, which is like personal management, and that is exactly what was the term which was used. It was called personal management, because after the Industrial Revolution, if you go to see, there was never a need of an HR before the Industrial Revolution. So even though there were small setups, the people who used to own businesses used to take care of the payment of their salaries or compensation or the well-being of there was no well-being per se that was in case also during the Industrial Revolution. So it was very inhumane human working setup is what you see, and that is where they thought that okay, now we are expanding, and now because there are bigger avenues for us to do during the Industrial Revolution, because of the machines and after the Industrial Revolution, there was no looking back. So the economies got better and stuff like that. So there were bigger problems a businessman had to deal. And that's where they thought that, okay, let's just hire one person who will do all of this, who will take care of giving out salaries on time, recruiting people, taking their interviews, ensuring that everything is in place, background verification is done, and all of that. And also, in case if they have any issues, they can reach out to that one person because he's taking care of everything, right from the entire employee life cycle, right from you hire till you retire, or you are like, sort of like you leave the organization. So that is what the personnel management or the basic understanding of personnel management is. And whenever even I meet people, they are like, oh, people just do recruitment, right? ये recruitment ही करते हो आप. HR मतलब recruitment ही होता है. And that is what people think of it. However, in today's day and time, we don't call it HR anymore. Like, of course, that is how we usually identify that people work in HR, but it's called human capital, because just like anything else as a resource which an organization uses, humans are also not just a vital resource, but they also formulate a part of the capital. They are your true asset. They're not your liability. They are your true asset. So in today's day and age, it's called human capital. In human capital or human resources, there are different center of expertise, or I would rather call it like specialist roles. So I belong to HR. I belong to learning and development. So that is one specialist role that I have, which is I take care of learning and development. I look into the empowering part of that, empowering part of an employee at workplace. So if you think that the person is not performing well, what are the skills that we can give to that person so that he can start working well, and he can be trained in a way so that he can achieve that particular goal that we've set for him in the organization. And that is what a learning and development does. As you know, recruitment, it's called talent acquisition now. So gone are the days we would call them recruitment. So now it's like you acquire talent from this huge pool of talent that we have. So we make it sound fancy, but that is how it is. We So that is what anything which in turns relates to attracting talent. It can be through campus activities, like you go to various campuses and you create a buzz about your organization, or it can be virtually through doing a lot of activities and engagement, or creating that kind of a employer brand, or the brand which sort of entails and excites the potential employees. That is what talent acquisition does. And of course, like getting them hired, that's like the basic job of the talent acquisition team. In today's day and age, HR used to be always, like as I was explaining before, gone are the days when people used to look at HR as one of those people who would be like a support function. Okay, main line of business is this: people will come and work. You are just enabling that person to do the job, and that is not how HR is perceived now in today's day and age. There is a specific role that HR plays, which is called business partnering. So they partner with businesses so that they can enable your employees or your human capital to perform and to meet that expectation that you have, or meet that goal, or achieve that goal that you have at the end of the year. And that's where there are specific roles where specific individuals from the HR team work extremely closely with different business units. So in an organization, if you have like if it's an FMCG brand, then you have a production team, you have a marketing team. So a business partner would work with these specific business units, so that there will be a specific person, an HR person working with, let's say, production, to understand what are the problems of production that you have, what are the issues that you have, what is the trajectory looking like, how many people leave the organization who are a part of HR. So everything related to ensuring that there are enough and more people, and those people are enabled to work better, is what an HR business partner does. So it's a business enablement role. It's not a center of expertise role that I mentioned, like a talent acquisition, or rather, um, or talent acquisition, or talent development, which is learning and development.
So
It is more.
they collaborate within the organization with different units, with
Yes,
businesses
yes,
units, and
yes,
then they figure out whatever the problem, whatever the challenge they are, and
exactly.
have a strategy for that.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so they work with, if it's a very sales driven organization, as I mentioned, that for example, FMCG brands, they have a huge fleet of salespeople. So there are people who are HR business partners only for sales. So they'll work especially with the sales folks, with the sales team, to understand how we can groom them, how we can train them, what are the incentives, what are the benefits we can give to them compared to any other organization, so that they stay loyal to the company, they are retained in the organization. So that is one. Uh, uh, Apart from that, compensation and benefits. That's also a big booming HR center of expertise, which is like an expertise expert specialist role, where you deal with numbers, you deal with how much, what is the cost to company, how much the company would should be focusing on when it comes to a certain particular pay band or a particular role. What are the competitors doing? So benchmarking your salary, all of that. And this is a yearly activity, so this has to be taken into account every year. So that is something that the compensation and benefits person does.
Does
uh,
payroll also fall in this purview? Payroll compensation and benefit.
Yes. So payroll is a small part of compensation and benefits. So payroll is something which is like, how do you pay out the money to the person? What are
Okay.
the ways in which you pay out the money? So that is one part of it, which is the implicit or the execution part of compensation and benefits. However, the strategy in terms of how much money, what is the amount of tax that we will pay, how we can frame our benefits or create that compensation package which ensures that we also save up on money in taxes, and also our employees, they don't have to pay out a lot of money for taxes. So what are the benefits that we can give? Medical benefits, fringe benefits, perks to some extent, people who are at the top management. So everything or related to compensation, compensating the person to work better in the organization,
Mhm.
is something that compensation and benefits team
A
takes care of.
hardcore numbers role in HR.
Very, very hardcore numbers role. And even if you have a background in CA, or if you're a chartered accountant, or if you are
Finance.
like a financial planner, this helps. That
Okay.
background helps. So that is one. Apart from that, there are a lot of other roles, new age roles that have come into play, because a lot of multinational companies need a discretion from the company or the HR team when it comes to cross mobility, or people leaving or transfer, for that matter of fact, from in the country also, or abroad. You need a person who can take care of mobility or expatriate management. So people who are global, like the global firms, have a team, dedicated team called the mobility and expatriate management team. So all your visas, all your transfers related document, also ensuring that how is the person gelling in case if that person is moving in the organization, if is he gelling well with the culture of the country, and also the culture of the organization there, or the plant or the office there, is something that the expatriate management or mobility team takes care of. And of course, data is everywhere. HR should not be left behind when it comes to the game of data. So HR analytics is a booming industry in HR, or in the world of HR. So every company usually, whether it be learning and development, whether it be HR business partner role, or talent acquisition, or anything to do with HR, numbers and data management and data analytics is very, very important. So that is something that every company, I think most of the companies have data analytics and HR analytics person who takes care of. And again, it's a center of expertise, it's a specialized role, and people take care of that. Apart from that, a lot of small things are also now a part of HR. For example, culture has always been a big part of HR. So diversity and inclusion, there are a lot of companies who put diversity and inclusion. They have specialist roles where there are people, individuals who take care of DNI, head DNI committees, make business resource groups, etc. But smaller companies also merge it with learning and development, or probably they also look at creating, they also look at naming a team in a certain way so that it can have like combination of roles. So certain companies don't have learning and development team, they have a talent management team. So that talent management team person will take care of learning and development, will look at culture. So it can be employee engagement, it can be diversity and inclusion, it will also have performance management. So managing performances, looking at, like, because all of this is very tied to each other. If you go to see the way a person should be enabled to like work better, which learning and development provides, should have a great culture, should feel proud of being the part or be himself, his true self in the organization. That's where the culture part is concerned, and feeling psychologically safe is also like what a part of culture plays an important role. And then all of this is there, then how the person is performing. So you need to also have like a reverse calculation that, oh, the person is not performing well, what learning and development can do. So that's where they package it as talent management, and that is something that is a part of it. A lot of internal communications also, the emailers, the newsletters, anything to do with communication announcements which are sent out is also something that HR takes care of, and it is called it is in most of the companies it's called internal communication. So that is also a part of it. So in a nutshell, I hope that I've answered your question, Vedant, and I've given you a holistic bird eye view of what
Yeah,
HR looks
it
like.
was very in-depth answer.
I'm sure nobody is ever going to find this sort of, introduction and diversification in such a simple language. So, yeah, thank you for answering that. Tell us where you have grown up, and do you think does that have any impact on the person that you are today?
Yes. So, I live in Mumbai, and I'm born and brought up in Mumbai. I live in a suburban area in Mumbai, which is not like the central hip part of Mumbai that people think of, oh, Bandra or Kolaba. No,
That people
I don't
make
come
reels
from.
about.
Yes, people make reels about. There's nothing real worthy in the place where I live. I live in a suburban area called Dahisar in Mumbai, and it is. I've grown up in a middle class household, and people who come from very really humble background. My family members have been like extremely humble. While growing up, of course, as a queer child, I have gone through a lot of bullying in school, a lot of bullying in the kids that I used to work that I used to like play while I was growing up. Unfortunately, I faced a lot of that has created a lot of like trauma, and to an extent where I felt like I was alone because I was dealing with my sexuality. I felt that I'm the only person here who faces this and who's being like sort of pointed fingers at. But luckily, I had like an agency of good friends who always continued to be with me, and the world of fiction, as you all know, that books were like my biggest escape and have always provided the right kind of comfort. That those are my truest friends. They've never left me ever in dark. But to answer your question, Ankita, the problems, probably the worldview that I have is, of course, there was nothing extraordinary around me. It was as an everyday queer kid, I was facing a lot of issues in school, in where I was, living and stuff like that. And also, my childhood was not that great. Like I was not for the longest time. I was alone also. However, I used or diverted that energy to things that I like doing. And whether it was books, whether it was language, whether it was taking up an extra course in school, or whether that was acing, instead of looking at what has happened with you in school and people are just bullying and calling you names, I used to shun myself and like dig my nose deep into books or deep into textbooks, and that has helped me to get great grades, and that has opened doors and avenues for me. So my worldview or my way of dealing with things which are not up to me is to like just dig your nose deep into things that you love doing, whether it's books, whether it's experiences. And that is that one way of dealing with trauma, or that way of dealing with hardships in your life, has helped me to uh, deal with bigger hardships in life right now. Adulting is not easy, and especially when you're adulting in a world which is digital and you are queer, so there's a lot of like different problems that you face that a lot of people around you, especially the heteros around you, would not be able to relate with, is a different type of trauma altogether. And this learning of like being a soul rider and a solo soldier in your life, and being your own best friend, rather, if I would like to put it that way, I was not solo, I was my best friend. That has helped me to always be the radiant person in the room, so nobody would come to know that, oh, this person faced loneliness, or this person had a certain trauma. That your relationship with yourself is so true and so nice. It's of such great quality that resonates in everything that you do. So even if come a biggest storm in your life, I know that your ship will sail.
Suraj, don't make me cry. That was so beautiful, There's a song by Taylor Swift. It's called Daylight, and she says at the end that I want to be defined by the things that I love and not the things that I hate. And
Yes.
whatever you said is just it just looks to me like a sun setting, and it's
Oh,
reflecting
Standing
the.
tall to your name, Suraj.
yes, of
Rising
course, I have to
sun.
stand tall to my name. Thank you for saying that, Vedant. I
Yeah,
have to be radiant. I have to be a sun. I have to be like
yeah.
that.
Taking a segue from that, just a cue from there that you made yourself comfortable. You found, solace in whatever the books, the kind of friends that you had, and also having known that this is the path that you have to take right from early on helped you in some way. But and also having being a reader and someone who likes to talk helped you in acing this career path. But I also wanted to know what are the kind of challenges that you faced when you decided, this is what something that I want to do, and maybe being because of your sexuality or maybe otherwise some background, degree, education. What are the kind of challenges that you faced? You can also speak of how working in startup life was different from how working in MNC was. So if you could
Yes.
shed light on that.
Yes. It's a very multi-layered question, so I'll also keep my answer very layered. So first and foremost, my grades were really good, as I told you, right? When I was studying, I've always been a really nice student, like a teacher's pet, to be honest. People around me were like, why don't you take up engineering? Why don't you take up, medicine? Why don't you do something which is which is conventional, which is for people who have that kind of grades? But I was very, very strong on my opinion. I think I would give that credit to my mom, because my mom has always been very supportive. Like, do what you love, don't think of the world. If you think that this is something that you like doing, kar lo. And that is what I did. I had her backing for me, and I was like, there was no looking back. And I still think that I always look at my worldview has always been like, you look at the positives in your life than looking at the negatives. So even if there were like hardships, or even where, I've always find my way out, just like how the sunlight finds a way to like reach you. That is how, like, even if there is one small hole somewhere, that will just allow you to like get in. And I have always used that with the gift of the gap, with the kind of opportunities. I've always been primed to opportunities in my life. So whenever there's an opportunity that comes, or even if there's a person whom I can network with, I've always used that to my benefit. And I would definitely recommend that people everywhere, I think, they should, instead of having like courses which is like very good to know, which is like, and very good to like sound, which is like business communication and stuff like that, they should actually train people in handling conversations. First and foremost, networking is a skill that if you learn, irrespective of where you are, what you're doing, that will help you to open doors which you thought were like walls for you. They will turn into doors, they will turn into windows for you. They will turn into escalators and elevators for you, if you know the skill. So I think networking is something that is extremely helpful, and that is something that has helped me a lot. Apart from that, as you mentioned, that in terms of like my sexuality, has that ever like caused a problem? No, because I have or I would probably take a stance, or probably speak from my side, where I would say that I come with a kind of privilege, or rather I would say that it's my way, where I don't give a damn about what a person thinks of me. I am here to work, and I'm here to prove my mettle. And I know that I'm better than you. When you're supposed to do my work and I'm supposed to do my work, I know that I could do that better than you. So if I am a little effeminate, or if I talk in an animated way, if that is causing a problem, that's your problem. That is what I have always been in my life. And being assertive also helped. So right, as I mentioned, networking is a skill that helps. Being assertive also helps. So if you be aggressive, or if you be passive aggressive, or you feel like, or you be extremely passive, that अरे ये तो बोल रहे हैं मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, oh my god, I'm like too traumatized, or probably you will say yes to them and be friends with them, and then you feel crib about it when they're left or behind their back. That is not going to help you in any way. So being very assertive, not, and there's a thin line being assertive and being very straightforward also. So you have to be very assertive. You have to also, read the room where you are speaking, and what you're doing, and what your actions are, and what are the what are the side effects or repercussions that your actions might have. So that is something that has helped me a lot. Working in a startup vis-a-vis working in a corporate, of course, in a smaller company. And I think I, sort of threw myself to the wolves because I always wanted to start or have my career or start my career in a startup. So like in a corporate role where you have like 10 people doing specific roles and doing their job and ending their day, in a startup those 10 roles are your KRAs. And that has been my case. And because of consulting, I know that how crazy my schedules used to be. I think for those 3 years, I know that for the matter of fact that I had no personal life, like no friends, no dating life, no nothing. There are few of my friends who abandoned me because they're like, you know what, you're married to your job. So I think we don't want to, we are not called for that party. We are not a part of that party. We are not invited to that party. So we are not. So there are a few friends that I left, or few friends that I've lost because of my work. But I know that those 3 years, whatever I've learned and whatever I've exposed myself, I have always been reaping benefits or reaping my fruits every single day after that. So that whatever consulting grooms you to, and I think that is one recommendation that I would like to give to anybody who's starting their career anywhere, is if you get an opportunity to work in consulting, go for it. I know that it will be detrimental to your mental health to some extent. It might also like have like a pinch, and that is where you have to take a call where to stop
Yeah.
it, because that is where I decided that I have to prioritize myself and I stopped. I shifted teams. But consulting will expose you to things that you think that will actually push you to an extent which will unlock your true potential. So
True.
I was not aware that I would be able to handle stress in that manner. I was not aware that I would manage 10 live projects or work with different people with different opinion, manage their expectation, work with those stakeholders extremely closely. And that would have never happened in my career if I would have not chosen a path in consulting. So I know that consulting has opened a lot of doors for me and has primed me to perform effectively in my current role and in future.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely agree with the if you have the bandwidth to always start, because I also started working right in my college. I used to skip college and go to work in startups, and the kind of and I did that for a couple of years until my college got over. But then the kind of confidence that it gave me, that today being in MNC, I know I used to do the work of 10 people, and here we have 10 teams to do that single work. And and I was like, this is easy, this is cakewalk after doing that. And the kind of learnings, of course, I can never. And the I think the biggest learning was I was working so closely that I can immediately see the impact of the kind of work that I was
Absolutely.
doing. The feedback loop was very quicker, the kind of learnings that were very quicker. And that is something that you take, whatever you learn 1 year in a startup, it takes 5 in an MNC. So anyone
Yeah,
starting out and has the bandwidth to do it in a startup, because yes, it can get very toxic because it's very fast paced and not everyone has the they can't afford that at the moment. So if your mental health and if your physical health allows you to do in a startup, I would definitely agree that one should start their career in a startup.
absolutely.
Also, I think when you talked about the repercussions of working in a startup, friends abandoning you and everything, I think everyone working in startup can relate to that at some point in their life. You talked about, networking and how it will open doors no matter where you go. Could you like give some pointers to people, let's say, who are shy, who are awkward, who are introvert, and they find it very hard to, initially approach someone at first? So, like, what are, let's say, 3 or 5 pointers that they can keep in mind when they, like, obviously eventually it gets better once you, give yourself enough practice, but like once somebody who's starting out and they don't know how to network, like any beginner tips that you want to provide?
Yes. So the first thing that comes to my mind is, and a lot of people struggle with that, and I think to some extent even I had that, and which stems from social anxiety, which is like you feel like you feel anxious around people. I know that it's a clinically defined term and I'm not supposed to use it loosely, but people who have that kind of a thing, that fear of being judged is one thing that people feel a lot. Oh, if I'll say it in a certain way, even though I don't know this completely, how am I supposed to like talk about it? Oh, that person will just like trash me left, right, and center. So that apprehension of doing a thing, that you feel without before doing the thing, is so detrimental that you don't end up talking at all. So I feel like speaking up, and first and foremost in your head having that, removing that filter that somebody's going to judge you, somebody's going to like have an awful experience of talking to you, should not be there. So I know that I am going to give like a shiny product to anybody who talks to me. So I'm that salesman who's going to give like a radiant slice of life that Suraj is. So I know that for the matter of fact that I am going to give the great experience, and why to shy away from giving that experience. So that is what my outlook is. And this good thought, or this this image that you create of yourself helps a lot when you speak to others. Because if I'll have that great image about myself when I'm talking to probably Vedant for the first time, or when I'm talking to anybody for the first time, they will also see that image. They will see that Suraj that you're trying to paint, or that person that you're trying to paint of yourself. So if you have those negative thoughts that somebody will judge me, somebody will, I don't know, you're not feeling confident, that person will think that you're inconfident. So having a great narrative helps. So that's first step. Second thing is, always talk about things that you may have in common. uh, some people like to talk about the weather. If that is the game, go for it. If you think that the person, if you're meeting for the first time, have a close look at them. If you think that that person is somebody who will help you with work, and the setting is that you're meeting at a professional networking event or a professional event, then you can start talking about work. That is something that might be in common. If you're meeting them somewhere else, where it's a semi-formal event, then you can start having a conversation about that event. Probably if you're meeting them at a salsa dance thing, then you can talk about the salsa dance thing, and then you can segue the conversation to something that you probably want to take your attention to. And don't be too direct when you do that. So first is that you have a great opening of the conversation, so you can start talking about things that you have in general, and then keep on, like, every other sentence or every other thing that you bring should be a build up to that, should be a build up to things. It shouldn't be like, oh, I like the dress that you're wearing, full stop. Then there is a long pause, and then there is nothing to talk about. No, always keep yourself interested to talk about and carry forward the conversation. And then segueing things into like flowing things. Like, I have this, I think I'm very proud and not so modest to talk about it, that I always can find links and get to the conversation that I want to head into. But a lot of people struggle with that, and that is a true and an honest and a valid struggle to have. So the more you do it, as Ankita you mentioned, the more you do it, the better you will get at it. So always try to like make the conversation like segueing. And a lot of people who are in sales and marketing don't have a problem in that at all, because they know how to sort of take the conversation ahead, how to structure their conversation so that it leads to that. A lot of people struggle with that, but always keep in mind that it is being too direct is not going to help. If you need help, and if you're going to just like, oh, this is what I need, hi, I need help, nobody's going to entertain. So always have talk and make the other person feel better. And that is what I think I read in this book, which is very talked about. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He says that its conversation is more about the other person than you, how you make them feel. I know that when I talk to someone, I give them like a good radiant sunflower. That is the perception that I give of myself to them. And of course, everybody loves sunflowers. So that makes them feel better, that you're putting that. I mean, if I'm handing out a sunflower to them through a conversation to them, they feel that they have something in themselves. That's why I'm handing out that experience to them. So when you talk to them, when you make them feel a certain emotion, whether that's a great experience that you're giving to them, they will feel great about themselves. And that's why they will open up, they will talk to things that you never expected. But probably you will feel that after a point that, oh, people are oversharing with me. And that's a sign that you are making them feel psychologically safe. So when you make them feel psychologically safe, they feel free to talk about all those problems.
Yeah. I think what you said about that, there's this current trend also going on where, people who have a very comforting and, empathic presence, people usually end up sharing a lot. That's usually called a therapeutic presence.
Yes,
Everybody wants
yes.
to talk to you and all. And like, I really resonated with what you said, the first point, this judgment and then self-critic that we have, that stops us from pursuing a lot of things. And there was a very wonderful woman I met, and she said, in her mind, she tries to befriend her self-critic. So it's like, you both are a team, and you give us a good feedback, and we keep it in mind, and then we move forward, instead of
Yes,
having that stop you from taking the step altogether.
that helps.
But You know what I think, like when I started in corporate, which was quite late, in my mind, networking was something always which was about, a selfish gain in my mind. So something that doesn't seem like, where both the parties are being benefited, that used to like, make me feel like maybe not, or, try to ignore it as much as I can. So like, what would you want to like tell people, like what exactly is the point of networking, or like what do you think is the objective?
So networking, as you mentioned, that sometimes it feels like the two parties should benefit from it. It's not always that. Sometimes the benefits, of course, if there is in any conversation you want to have in general with anybody, there is some output that you desire or you want from them. But sometimes it can be immediate, that person can help you, and sometimes that networking or that experience that you share with the other person, you will be able to reap benefits with them when you reconnect with them later after a few years. So it's all about relationship management then rather than something which is a quick gain, according to me. Some people find networking, some people would say that networking is also like um, something on the lines of rapport building or building rapport with them. So even if you are in an organization, even if you're doing that in your team, okay, where you know that the other person is doing something distinctively different from you, but when you build that rapport with them, when you build that bond with them, if tomorrow, if that person is, imagine if that person is really great with numbers, and I am not that great in numbers, I know that if I have a great bond with him, a great working relationship, rapport with him, then that person will be willing to help me, or probably rather teach me also how to do things. And that is what has helped me too many times, that having that great experience, sharing that great experience with that person. Of course, who wouldn't love to meet a person, or who wouldn't like to be friends or know a person who has a great personality? So building a great personality, giving that experience to that person, keeping that conversation alive, also having that rapport with each other, that even if you stumble upon them or meet them at some different event and some different in different walk of life altogether, that experience is something that the person will remember you with. And then in case if you're willing to, like, if you need a help or you need somebody to support you, those people would be more than willing to help you. And that is what I think about it.
I think what we do very wrong with networking is we do the ask very immediately, especially in Indian context, in Indian networking
Yes,
events. We do the ask very immediately, like, how can I benefit? How can I benefit? And the other person also. And that makes it very shallow instead of having the relationship building and maybe giving each other experiences of, you can give them something that they do not have insight, because you have a very unique experiences. I can talk about the spectrum here, the rainbow spectrum. I can give insights from here, they can give me insights on something else, on marketing. Maybe we can just share insights in the first meeting, and that can be a good starter. I think when we were speaking of networking and how it used to be very difficult for me as well, because the sales role that I was working, right, in the first gig that I had as a work, they used to send me a lot of networking events, and I was in a room. I was 16 year in a room full of men who are 30, 35, and I used to have this constant imposter that, what do I talk? How do I even begin? So I think I used to have, just to ease myself, I used to have this narrative. And you also mentioned, Suraj, like, I am here to give them an experience of radiance, of my vibrance. I used to think that today I'll just give them something that they have not heard of. I'm doing them a favor by going and opening up to them, and that helped me. And then I used to carry a couple of questions, like, what would you do differently if you had to go back in career? Because I was still starting out, and these were some set 2 3 questions that were my comfort space, and I could just begin the conversation. And once you begin the conversation, you're 5 minutes into the conversation, it will flow. You'll find the common ground. You'll find the common threads to lead the conversation. I think that would also help people to do that. So taking the lead from here, I wanted to ask that, if someone today is 16, 17, early in their career, whatever, because I know the earlier career definition is different for different people, coming from different, they have different restarts. So
absolutely.
if Suraj had to, advise someone who's just starting their career and want to take the same path that Suraj did, what would you suggest the route, the unconventional resources that they can access today, given that some of the people have financial constraint, do not have the privilege of having esteemed education in premier institutions? What are the things that they can do, or how can they groom their career, how can they craft their career so that they can become a very good HR professional, or just human capital, be a very good human capital person?
First and foremost, high five to you, Vedant, for doing that great job when you were 16 and having that great narrative. And that is something that every teenage person should do, because that when you start doing having a great narrative, that helps you to, like, sort of, that eases a lot of problem in your life in general. So good job in that. If somebody has to expose, or somebody has to probably build up a career like me in HR, or in general, and people who don't have access to great premium institutes, um first and foremost, I've never studied in a premium institute. I've always aspired to, but I've never gotten there. And certain someone who met me very recently told me that, I work with a lot of these premium institute employees, and I think you're much better than them. So I think I might have done something great or something right, that has triggered that person to, like, say something so kind to me. um uh, but to simply put it, I think what a person should do, or what a early teen or a 16-year-old can do, is look out for avenues to expose himself, to learn and absorb as much as possible. So it can be through various avenues. It can be through events, it can be through reading a lot. There's a lot of content available on HR, or skill building, or different things on the internet right now. I was in the age where there was no YouTube, there was nothing on internet. We just had Google, and that had, like, links, and then those links were also not very user friendly. So if I was able to navigate through that, a 16-year-old who has different MOOC platforms to give out courses which you can access anytime, which are, most of them are for free because the content is free. Even if you don't get accredited, at least you learn something. uh, YouTube or books which are available in different formats. I think that is a good enough launch pad for them to, like, get a head start into things. I have this really nice philosophy that I belong in, or that I believe in, which is, and this is a story, so I'm just gonna segue a little bit and give you all a story. So there is a man who is fishing, okay, and there's another observer by the lake who's come, and there's a man who this man who's fishing. He's just, like, getting a lot of fishes because this lake is very abundant, but he's just, wherever he's catching a fish, he's looking at the fish, and he's just dropping them back into the pond. When this gentleman goes there and asks that, why are you doing this, the person says that, I have a pan at home, and I know that these fishes that I'm catching are too big or too small, so I would not be either cook them, or cook them properly, or I would not be able to satiate my hunger. So that's why I'm waiting for the right fish to come. Okay, using these analogy, using the pan and the fish, uh, and drawing parallels to our life, the way the fish is, it's the opportunities that come our way, and the way the pan is your capacity to cater to those opportunities. So the thought that I always look into, and this is the story, by the way, I start most of my trainings with, because a lot of people just, like, sit back and like, oh my god, what have you heard? Is like, you always expand and always take participation or active participation into avenues which will help you to enlarge your pan, so that even if you have a whale that you catch someday, you would be able to cook that whale and eat it. These are the few things that you can do to enlarge your pan, or enlarge your capability to cater to different opportunities. And also, if there is an opportunity that comes your way, and for whatever reason you are not able to succeed, or you are not able to win that opportunity, there's always learning. So that constant fear of failure is something that they should negate right in the early on beginning. There were a lot of nights that did not end well for me, a lot of battles that I was not able to, that broke me. But look at me, how I am right now. I was able to survive, and that is the power of resilience that every human has in himself. So that constant fear of what the people will say, or I will not be able to live up to that expectation for myself, is not something that you should be defray yourself from taking the right action. Always always never forget about that oneself, that you are a fountain of opportunities, you're a fountain of capabilities in you. So even if sometimes you are not able to give your 100%, don't blame yourself for it. There will be certain days that you will be a rock star. There will be certain days that you will not like to do anything. So just not just be a little. I'll sing like Adele, but yeah, just go easy on yourself. So that is like few things. So be open to the opportunities that come your way and never shy away from putting the best self out there. If you do these two things right, I think that they are able to do anything that comes their way.
And Suraj, just taking this a little bit further, say someone wants to transition into a role from a very different role. Say an engineer, a coder who's just stuck in a day job, who doesn't want to do this thing and suddenly has the aspirations to become, move to the human side of things of a corporate life. What are the kind of certifications or, you can suggest avenues that they can start learning and start applying through?
Yeah. So I would go back to the first question that you have, which was on like how like a student can like get into HR. They can also use a lot of internships that come your way. So internships don't require you to have a certain degree or a certain background. They are open to all. So if you have that capability, if you have that interest, they will just give you the job. Sometimes it is going to be unpaid, sometimes it's going to be paid. There are multiple avenues, sites there that can help you to find the internship. So there is no problem in finding an internship also. And that is something that they could use. And similarly, for people who want to transition to an HR role, a lot of people use MBA as like the conventional route, so that they can enroll into a full-time MBA or do an executive MBA, and then move to the HR side or any other side that they would like to do, like even for marketing that holds true. Certain certifications that I can help, like that something that I would like to say is like, if you are interested in one part, a specialist part in HR, and it's always better to be a specialist than to be a generalist. So a king of all is always someone who will be paid better than the jack of all.
True, true.
So king of one, rather, actually, king of one will always be paid better than the jack of all. So always find a niche in things that you do. Like for example, for me, the niche is learning and development, and I always want to enlarge my pan into learning and development. So I started off as an instructional designer, as a content creator, and there I was just by myself. So I did not have any background into content design. So I was just looking at how people have done it before me and would adapt to it. And then later on, I realized that there is a concept called instructional designing, which is really very important. And that is something that anybody can use. Anybody who's trying to teach something to another person can use those principles. So a lot of teachers, a lot of educators, a lot of people who train on technical things use the concept of instructional designing in their day-to-day life. So that is what I got certified into. That has helped me to create multimedia content. So not just like PPTs and classroom content, but also e-learning modules and modules which are on self-paced, with like a podcast or probably a video based learning, which is like very self-paced and asynchronous, is
Mm.
something that I learned through instructional designing. So that is one thing that anybody needs to know, and that is like a stepping stone in learning and development. So if you want to have a career in learning and development, if you don't understand content, if you don't understand the how quality of content is also has a role to play in in having a great learning intervention, then you will not be successful as a learning and development professional. So I think that is the first step to
Mm.
become a great learning and development professional. There are a lot of certifications that are available by multiple companies and multiple organizations. For example, KPMG runs program called Future Learning and Development Professionals, or Leaders, and that's a lovely course. So I did that course a year back, and that has helped me to understand a lot of things about learning and development that I was not familiar with, even though I had like good 5 years of experience in learning and development. Apart from that, there are very specific roles and specific, just like how I mentioned about learning and development, there are very specific skills or courses that a lot of organizations, a lot of institutes also provide. So for data analytics, there are multiple great courses that are available right now in online, offline mode. That can help you to learn about data analytics, especially for HR when the HR standpoint is concerned. Another thing that I would like to mention is whatever that you learn, even if you are like somewhere working in a factory, or you are a you are a software developer and you're learning about HR, try to use these concept of HR in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day working. So it could be like, for example, if you are a software developer, if you're making a PPT and there is a new person who's come to your role and he wants to transgress into learning and development, create a learning module for him. It will take some time, but that is something which you can do on the job, that will sort of expose you to like sort of learn and try something that you've learned, and practice something and
that
get
can
better at it.
always act as a case study when you present it in your resume. What are the in
Yes,
your current role, how did you use these
exactly.
concepts and all?
And that will just like be something that you can be your talking point, as you said, Vedant. That will help you to, in case if you're giving an interview, or even if you want to take a internal job posting or like an internal job shift to in your organization, you can say that these are the things that I already do, and that will help you to get into that role that you want to.
Lovely. Yeah. Love it.
So, I mean, listening about your journey and how, you finally found what you are good at. I'm sure there must be, these epiphanies or these points which caused growth in your life, whether it can be personal or whether it can be, professional. So, could you talk about, when was any phase that caused the most growth in your life where you feel like, it shifted your maybe who you are right now, or maybe professionally, and what caused that growth in you?
Yes, professionally speaking, my 3 years in consulting were the most shaping years of my life, because I'm very blessed that I was into consulting and I worked in a startup, and I was in the area which was very unfamiliar for me, because I was not nobody trains you on learning and development, creating content. Very niche it was. Not just I was working on content, I was interacting with a lot of people. So there was a lot of interaction that I had to do, a lot of work that needs to be generated. So there was pressure. This is a definition of pressure, and that is what I was feeling. And like there is a quote which says like no diamond is created without pressure, right? So I know that I reaped a lot of benefits. These moments, and they were very unpleasant times also. It was not very like, oh, I was enjoying and it's like everything is rosy for me, or hunky dory for me, but it wasn't. But I have always taken learnings from those unpleasant moments. There have been interactions with clients, or there have been interactions with the team members that have not gone well, where we had creative differences, where I've lagged, and I have not been able to deliver on time. But those moments have been somewhere helped me to sort of correct my course and to come back with great vigor. So for me, those 3 years in consulting and working with diverse, giving to somebody who showed trust in me so that I could, live up to this, where I was just 23, and I was taking care of like so many active clients and so many active projects, and heading them, leading them, front ending them, or single-handedly, has given me a lot of exposure of the true potential that I hold. So I think when there's pressure, there is always the two narratives that you can give, and I always been very ardent on having a positive narrative to things, and that has helped me to like always go upward and onward.
So what exactly motivates you? I'm sure, being in human capital, and dealing with people, especially, it's not always sunshine and roses. There are times when
With
someone,
Suraj, it is.
sometimes
That's
it gets,
yeah.
yeah, no, continue.
So I mean, as Vedant said, that most of the time it's like sunshine and roses for me. I mean, I ignore the thorns. I ignore all of that.
Okay. Okay. So, like, what I was going to ask you, like, when the days when, back to back, you're not having, maybe not good interactions, or the objective that you decided for the day or the week has not, fulfilled. So, how do you like let yourself in, provide yourself that self-care to, come back much more stronger? Like, what are the ways where, you give yourself that time to relax and recharge, and how do you do that?
Okay. So I have a multi-layered answer to this again. Um, First
Don't
and foremost,
expect anything else. Somebody said.
Or
so
don't want anything else. It's
so what I do is when it comes to self-care, or when there have been back-to-back setbacks or interactions which have not gone according to me or how I expected it to be. One thing that I do is I have a board or a small thing when I work, wherever I work, which has all the high things in my life. So it could be a picture where I won the student of the year, or it could be a picture where I traveled for the first time in a flight to go to during my consulting days to a client, or a small achievement that I've achieved recently. I put all of them there. Or it could be a great relationship that I hold currently in life with my friends, with my family, or a great memory that I have of myself. So all of that is there, right next to my laptop. So if there are things that are not going well, I have that board to look at, and I know that this is something that you can do. So what if your sunshine is getting clouded by a few clouds today? That's not going to be the case every day. This is how every day looks like for you. This is how your life in entirety looks like for you. And that is something that helps me a lot. So having a small board, or people can do it in a different way. They can create something digital, or they can have pointers written. They can have affirmations written. So my board also have a few words like simply great and sunshine and sunflower and all of that. And that helps me to, like, sort of be akin to my true self. So that's the reflection of my true self. So I call it not a vision board, a vision mirror. So that is a vision mirror for me. So that's one thing that helps. Taking learnings of what things have gone wrong, if there are interactions and setbacks, if you had a take two on that, what could have been your actions to safeguard that. So I take a take two or a second innings talk for myself for all these things that I do, and that is what I call it take two of these things. So I always reflect. I'm very high on reflection, so I have copious amounts of journals in my life. Like, for example, like if anybody new has to come, and like a thief has to invade, he will just find books and he's just find journals, and he'll be very disheartened when he leave my house. So I have a lot of journals. I believe in self development, and I also believe in shelf development. So so that is where I write a lot of my reflections, a lot of my thoughts, and I go back to them. It's not that I write it and then I just put it on a shelf and forget about it. I open them and I read them. I also reflect upon it and see that what has changed in me. And that is something that I do to for my self nourishment, and also something that helps me in my life, in my career, to become better. So that's one thing, having a reflection. And to talk about self care, as I told you, I'm a very sensation seeking person. So I pick up a book, I go to a lovely cafe, I order a croissant, I order a hot chocolate, and I just like dive into that world, or listen to lovely music in the background. And when I'm experiencing good food and I'm reading a good book, and that just helps me and just kicks me in my gut to become a better person and to come back with like all this radiance that you can see right now. So that is something that I have created. And very recently, I stumbled upon an amazing course by Jonathan Van Ness, who is a part of Queer Eye. And he has like a very nice course on
wow.
self-love and self-care. And I just
On
stumbled upon
Skillshare,
it.
right?
Yeah, yes, on
Yeah,
Skillshare.
yeah.
And it
We
is
love him.
yeah, everybody loves him. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
has this lovely course, and he's just talking about things that you can do to be a bath that you can take that can help you, or a self-care routine that you can form, or hobbies that you can cultivate that can help you to become better. And that course is something which is really nice. I've got a lovely, like, couple of great ideas to like inculcate in my self-care routine. And I'm sure that people who will take up that course will also have the same experience, and that is something that we all can do. So
Yeah.
these are the few things that I have.
He changed my self-care routine from just washing, splashing water on my face to at least cleansing, toning, moisturizer.
Has that effect on everyone.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a lot of progress.
I love whatever you said, especially the first point that you talked about having those pictures. I think I have this similar chat with Vedant where I have told him, let's have this thing where, the golden child moment whenever we have felt that in our life, have pictures there, and after any bad day, good day, it's a good reminder to have that this is the person that you are, and what happened today, that's not you who you are. So that's extremely relate 100 emoji.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, the journal and reflection part, I think that has been the sole thing that has helped me navigate through some of my toughest years. And also, I mean, just having that documented, whenever I feel low, I go back and I see I have aced this, all of these. So this is nothing in comparison to that. That gives me a lot of hope and courage to just sail through whatever phase I'm going through right now, because that was the toughest. If I could just
Yes.
breeze through that, this is nothing. This is nothing. So that's why I think documentation of any form is important about your life, how you're feeling on day-to-day basis, and it helps great degree. I wanted to ask you, Suraj, about, you spoke a lot of pointers on how someone can leverage their careers. You said network. You said about the, applying your learnings. I also wanted to talk if there has ever been, mentors who have been very instrumental in, crafting your career, and what is the need to have one, or how does having a mentor impact your career, and how does one go about finding one, a queer child somewhere lost, feeling, isolated? How does they go about finding a mentor for them? If not in person, maybe virtual, maybe,
Yes.
through book, anything could work.
Yes. So, first and foremost, mentors have helped me a lot, and they are very unconventional mentors. Like sometimes I look at my childhood best friend who is 3 years younger than me as my mentor as well. So I think he has given me really sound advices when it comes to career and when it comes to navigating in relationships than anybody else in my life. So they are very unconventional. So it's not that you have to put someone on a pedestal that, oh, certain someone who's old, someone who's worked somewhere will become like my mentor. No, in today's day and age, anybody can be your mentor. And there have been multiple college professors who've been my mentor, who've actually never helped me about my career. They've never spoken about career. They've just been there and just like given me certain direction that, do this, Suraj, this is something that you can do, or just grab a book, like just grab a book, and like when in worry, grab a book. That is something that one mentor told me, and that is something that is like I'm reaping benefits every day
We
you know,
need
by that.
more mentors like this.
Yes. Yes, I think that is what I try to an extent to be that kind of mentor. And one such platform that has helped me to, just like cascade all these learnings that I have to the people who are in need with is the group that I was telling you about, that I'm a part of, which is Connect. So Connect is a professional mentoring group. It is started by an ex-McKinsey IM graduate person, and it's a group of queer people, queer professionals from different walks in life. And we have like an active WhatsApp group, we have an active Slack channel, we are also there on LinkedIn and Instagram, but we also do these events, in an offline basis. So that is something that we get people in a room, start talking, allow them to speak to each other, create those avenues to synergies to flow. But one such flagship program that we run is the peer-to-peer mentoring cohort, which we do every quarterly basis. I think we have started doing it once in 2 months also now. So in this, what happens is it's a very simple form for a person to fill, and anybody who is like right from someone who is a teenager to someone who's older can ask and get mentored on anything in any aspect of life. It can be professional, it can be because you want to switch your career, you don't know which course to take, or it can be a trouble at work, probably like you want to probably start a DNI program in your company and you don't know how to do that, or you are a first time manager, you really need some guidance from someone, a queer person, to help you, or you're planning to come out to your employees. How do you want to do that? To something which is life related, like for example, if you want to go abroad, if you are having problems in a relationship and you want like to just be mentored by someone else who is also in a relationship, uh, to probably navigating how to adopt a child abroad, or probably here in India. All these things, like something related to life, something related to career, is something where you can find a mentoring into. And as I mentioned, that I get mentored and I mentor as well. So I always keep that balance, that I want to impart my learnings and I also want to learn more. And that is something that I think I would heavily recommend people to do. It's something which is free of cost, so we don't charge at all for that. And the pool of mentors and the pool of people that we have is immense. So you can be rest assured that you will be linked with someone who will actually help you out a lot in life. And I, with my mentors and mentees, I think I've become friends. So very recently, yesterday, I met a mentee of mine at a networking event, the same networking event that Connect organizes, and it was so good to see that he's bloomed in his life and how, and he was also not shying away from saying that, I've played a pivotal role in casting him in that direction. And I said that, you have also taught me a lot of things that have helped me at work, and that is how it is going to be a two-way street. So even if you become a mentor, or if even if you're a mentee, you will not just learn, you will also impart learning to someone else, and that is how the mentee or a mentor will walk away or walk out of that mentoring program. So I think that it's a two-way street, and you will always have, it will be always a win-win situation for you.
Definitely. So ever since you have mentioned me about the program, I'm just, even yesterday I was asking, people I mean over there, that when is the next cohort happening? Because this is something that I always wanted in my life, and somehow this just clicked at the right moment, and I'm just waiting to be part of the next cohort. Speaking of which, Suraj, you seem to have done everything perfect in your life, like one guided, single path approach. But if even if you had to look back, do you think there are mistakes that you could have undo, or what would you have done differently, if anything, looking back in your career?
Mm, it's a very nice question, by the way, Vedant. However, as I told you, that the way I look at things is, I think that if anybody asks me, even if a genie comes to my way and say that, oh, Suraj, you have one wish. Do you want me to turn around something? Do you want me to delete any one page of your book of life? Do you want me to tear that page, or probably not even mention that chapter in your life? I would say no. I don't want anything to be changed, because those hardships, those tears, those sweat, that anxiety to whatever degree that I've felt, even physical, like sometimes I've fainted at work also. So all those things that I have faced have made me who I am right now. So there is nothing that I want to change. There's nothing that I want to go back and say that I wanted to do differently, or I wanted a different opportunity, or I wanted to prime myself to an opportunity. I know that there are things which have not worked in my favor, and they have come back in my life with 2x of that vigor, and my capability being 3x of that. So I know that if something is not working out right now, that's actually the sign of universe or the world or the higher power or whatever that you believe in, is that it's not the right time for you. Definitely something great is coming your way, and that has happened not just in my professional life, even in my love life. I have always felt that, I have not found the right person, and why is this breakup happening, and why is this heartbreak happening? And I know that I've got better answers when I've just been patient about few things in my life. So yeah.
For sure.
Relate. So, I just wanted to ask, let's say, we have in our audience a queer kid or an adult, queer adult who haven't come out yet, or, who don't feel like this is the right time for them. And like one piece of advice, if you had to give, like, what would it be to them?
Mm, so if they have to come out and they feel pressurized by the world around them to come out, or somebody's pressurizing them that, oh, I think if I don't come out now, I will never be able to come out. No, there's never, don't anybody else decide when you have to come out. Coming out is a very personal decision, it's a very personal experience, and nobody should, and that's a very pivotal experience. So imagine it's like metamorphosis, like how a caterpillar comes out of that cocoon and he blossoms out as a beautiful butterfly. That's how an experience it is. So never force yourself to come out of the cocoon if you're not ready. Okay. Second of all, whenever you want to come out to another person, know that other person well. Even when you come out to your parents, you come out, but their journey of coming out begins from that moment. So you have to be also I know that there's a lot of weight that gets lifted once you come out, but you also have to understand that what they will have to go through when you give that information to them. Sometimes people are not just ready to understand, or they don't have the resources or background to understand where you're coming from. So be a little more empathetic towards people when they come out. Even if you lose a few people out of your life just because you have a certain sexuality or you have a different identity, it's their loss. Never think of that there is something that is wrong in you, or there's something that you are not incapable to handle that relationship. You will be saving up a lot of your time, effort, and energy if you just have this narrative. Person who wants to be in your life will find 1,000 reasons to be in your life, even if you're the most toxic person to them. So believe in that thought, and always hold true that you have immense energy and power in you. And if somebody who doesn't want to appreciate it, it's better that they go and walk away somewhere else. Also, when you come out, um I know that I know when I came out to my close friends, I had like a checklist, and I was like, these are the people that I have to come out. And there are few people who will already know, and there will be a lot of people who will always embrace you with open arms.
Yeah.
And always look at those people who will always accept you with open arms. So I think, again, as I mentioned, nothing describes it better than metamorphosis for me. So it's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful experience, and never anything hamper that experience. It's like a full blown Kejo movement, a Karan Johar a moment in your life. And I know it might not be that dramatic for people. It might be traumatizing and scary also for a few people. But I know that when they come out, after a few years, they know that how they look at their coming out moment, and this is like how it is. It's a very pivotal moment in your life, and always ensure that nobody else defines that for you.
I mean, definitely, it gives you that sense of freedom that you can finally be who you are and, your authentic version. So I'm sure looking back, it always feels like this precious moment. And, following up to that, what advice would you give to an ally to be a better ally and, to be more like maybe tips on creating more inclusive space for people, who are still figuring it out or, who have figured it out, just anything in general.
They need to keep their ears wide open. They need to listen to comprehend, to understand rather than responding. So they should just have a lend great ears to their queer friends and be a great ally. If you do this, I think 75% of the job is done, because we queer folks have not been heard. We don't have people to talk to. And if somebody is opening up, is feeling psychologically safe around you to tell their story to you, then that takes an immense effort from their side. So be just mindful of that and lend them a great ear. That's one thing. Educate yourself, be more aware. What is happening? What are the terminologies? What are the pronouns? um, get a book for yourself, go online, mingle with a lot of LGBTQ friends of yours, queer folks of yours, attend a pride event, go and attend a pride walk. Mingle yourself, immerse into that experience of knowing a queer individual. And that is when you will understand that how the world is so similar, but it's so different and vibrant our side. So these are the two tips that I would like to give. And second of all, once you will it's all like in a way, like when you listen better, you'll be more aware. And if you're more aware, then you will have less biases. So once you have a great awareness about a certain thing, of course your half of your biases will go away. So if you keep this loop alive, where you listen, build your awareness, and curb your biases, I think you will be able to create a more inclusive space wherever you go. You will be a walking, talking, queer, inclusive atmosphere. So just we have like how we have like fragrant diffusers and stuff like that. You will be that wherever you go, at workplace, at your place, at your home, you will be that person. So I think this is the loop that you need to keep in mind.
Lovely. Love that answer, Suraj. And I truly agree with that. You speak so fondly of books and media. I want to know that, before we jump to the rapid fire, what are the three books that you recommend everyone to read? And what is that one book that changed your life completely?
Mm, very, very, very tough question to ask to a bibliophile, first and foremost.
Mm.
Um, 3 books. It's going to be very difficult for me to pick 3 books, but I think the few books that come to my mind right now, which have been like very like that have changed my worldview, is one of them is going to be fiction, and two of them I'll keep it in non-fiction.
Yeah.
So or rather, I will keep 2 fiction and 1 non-fiction.
Nice.
So one book that has
And
helped.
more.
So one book that has helped me a lot, which is a lot of people talk about that book, is called Tuesdays with Maury by
Mm.
Mitch Albom. If I have to give a gist, it's about a professor who is on his deathbed, and he's imparting his learnings to a student on Tuesdays. And it's a very, very, very insightful book. There's a lot of learning from that book that comes your way. So that is something that you should definitely read. That's like the go-to book that I would like to recommend. And that has changed my life in a lot of ways. Second book that I would like to recommend, which is going to be a fiction again, is The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. That story is extremely poignant. That story has taken me to a lot of places, and that story is something which is there in my heart and will be in my heart forever. So I'm not going to give any spoilers. Just go grab that book and read it. So that is one. These are the 2 fiction books that I would like to recommend. Another non-fiction book, or one non-fiction book that I would like to recommend. Actually, I would like to give 2 more recommendations.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Go for it.
one in non-fiction domain, if there is one book that I would like to recommend, is What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. It has 20 things or 20 traits that you need to work upon, which will give you, wherever you have reached right now, wherever you are, wherever you have progressed till right now, how to jump to the next level. That will help you in doing that, not just professionally but also personally. So it's a very new age book, and this is a book that I hand out to a lot of my friends, whoever I meet and whoever I know that is going through a tough time in their life, are not able to navigate themselves. That is one book that will help you a lot in terms of understanding the world around you, and how to make the most out of it internally, the internal work that you do, so that you will be able to sort of perform better. And second is going to be a queer book written. It's called Queeristan by Parmesh Sahani. It's a very unconventional LGBTQ diversity inclusion management slash business book, because it doesn't read like one. And I will give all due credit to Parmesh Sahani for writing it the way he speaks. You will feel like that person is speaking to you through the words which are printed in the book, and that is exactly how I felt. It's a book which is an Indian. It's very
Understood.
useful and relevant to Indian markets and economy. It will help individuals and act as a resource book to people anywhere in the corporates that they're working, to build inclusive environments, queer inclusive environments at workplace. And that is one book that I think anybody who wants to get a head start on starting their own DNI chapter at their workplace, or probably want to be more inclusive, those few tips, and even if they are queer themselves and they want to like do all of this by themselves, this is of the book that I would like to recommend. So these are like the top 4 books that I would like to recommend to
Yeah,
everybody.
I'll take more offline, but
Yes,
yeah, I
definitely.
love Queeristan, and I was sold at Tuesdays with Maury, because I think that one book, and there was this other book called The Last Lecture by
Randy Posh.
Randy
Yes,
Posh.
yes.
I think these two books imbibe the sense of mortality so much into me that anything was just, trivial in front of that. That, death is the eventuality, the only eventuality in a good way. That, that gives you the courage that nothing is beyond that. And that is one of, I keep telling Ankita that is the one of the first tattoos that I will ever have. It will be called
Wonderful.
Memento Mori, which is like remember
Oh,
death,
yes,
so that
yes,
you just any other fear diminishes in front of that. There's just one life, and
yes.
absolutely recommend reading those two books to anyone who's wanting to understand in a more depth, or want to imbibe more depth into their lives.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Suraj. You have been very, very helpful with all your answers.
Yay.
Before I before I burn into the rapid fire, do you have any questions for us?
No, this was an incredible conversation. It feels like as if we are like just sitting across the table and having a conversation. And you guys are doing a great job. And first and foremost, thank you for feeling that I am like the person who could, impart these kind of learnings to people. And the podcast that you are creating, and the platform that you've created for us to speak about our careers and shed that light and give that light to others is incredible. And I feel very privileged and happy to be a part of this. So thank you so much, both of you, Vedant and Ankita.
Talking to you was actually like getting a sunflower. So I am happy. My Sunday is set. And even the first time we met you, there was such a positive warmth that we felt. And we knew that we wanted everyone to feel that in some way or the other. So yeah, and that is what we accomplished. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Rapid fire.
Yes.
Ready? Okay.
Yes.
Suraj, what would be the title of the book about you?
Me, myself, and I.
Love it.
What is the superpower you wish you had?
To be invisible so that I can go to places and not be felt, like my presence not be felt, and I could hear conversations.
Nice. Any recent piece of media, could be show, book, or movie that you watched and you would recommend to everyone? Now that we have done books, maybe a show or a movie.
I like Please Like Me on Netflix. So it's a very fun LGBTQ show. Please go watch it. It's very fun.
Yeah. What is the one unpopular opinion that you hold very true that nobody agrees to?
I like pineapples on my pizza.
Me too. That's one. The charts are better.
Yes.
So if you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would definitely, now, because I've spoken enough and more about Jonathan Van Ness, I would love to go on a dinner with him.
Oh, love it. Last one. What would Suraj be doing in parallel universe? What is the kind of work career he would be doing?
He would be a therapist.
Ankita would love that.
You would be an excellent therapist,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have that aura. You have. Maybe you can just, extend your side game.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah. Anyways, you have that therapeutic presence, so you are doing it already in a way. Love it. Thank you, Suraj. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yay.
You did great. Thank you so much for taking out time on a Sunday and doing this for us.
Absolutely. It was immense pleasure for me to be a part of this, and I had a lot of fun with you all. So yes.